The battle at the front of the Canadian Grand Prix was becoming more intense with every lap. Sebastian Vettel continued chasing Daniel Ricciardo, but Martin Brundle explained that Vettel was losing too much time in the opening sector and needed to improve there if he wanted a realistic chance to attack. Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso was quietly increasing his pace, while the top 7 drivers remained separated by only a few seconds. Felipe Massa was making huge progress through the field thanks to fresher tires and excellent straight-line speed. Nico Rosberg, despite suffering from power and brake problems, was still driving brilliantly and somehow holding onto the lead. The Canadian crowd was also fully behind Sergio Perez, hoping to witness a historic victory for a Mexican driver for the first time since Pedro Rodriguez won in Formula One many years earlier. As the race entered its final stages, the pressure on Rosberg increased dramatically. Massa was charging forward and looked fast enough to potentially win if he could overtake the cars ahead quickly enough. Perez was struggling to hold off the Red Bulls, while Ricciardo patiently waited for the perfect opportunity to attack. Massa repeatedly challenged Vettel but missed a key chance after appearing not to activate DRS on one of the straights. Vettel himself was battling overheating tires while trying to stay close to Ricciardo. Eventually, Ricciardo made his move on Perez and successfully grabbed second place after an aggressive wheel-to-wheel fight that nearly pushed him onto the grass. Once clear, Ricciardo immediately began hunting down Rosberg, who was still somehow managing his damaged Mercedes despite losing speed on the straights. With only a few laps remaining, Ricciardo closed the gap completely. Using DRS perfectly, he swept past Rosberg on the straight and took the lead of the race, sending the Montreal crowd into a frenzy. Behind them, Vettel also overtook Perez to move into third place. However, the drama was not over. Felipe Massa, attempting to pass Perez as well, crashed heavily into the back of the Force India at high speed, sending both cars violently into the barriers. Thankfully, both drivers were moving afterward as the safety car was deployed. The race finished under caution, allowing Daniel Ricciardo to secure the first Formula One victory of his career. Rosberg heroically held on to second place despite his major technical problems, while Vettel completed a strong result for Red Bull by finishing third. Jenson Button came home fourth for McLaren after surviving the chaotic ending. Ricciardo's victory was a huge moment in Formula One, especially after many doubted whether he could truly compete against Vettel when he joined Red Bull. After climbing out of the car, Daniel Ricciardo could barely hide his emotions. The young Australian had just achieved the biggest moment of his Formula One career, and the entire Red Bull garage erupted in celebration as the team welcomed home their newest race winner. Coming into the weekend, very few people believed Red Bull could challenge Mercedes for victory because the Silver Arrows had dominated the season so heavily. However, reliability problems, brake issues, and smart race management completely changed the story in Montreal. Ricciardo stayed patient throughout the race, saved his tires, and waited for the perfect moment to attack. When the opportunity finally appeared in the closing laps, he delivered under enormous pressure and made the decisive move that secured victory. For Nico Rosberg, second place almost felt like a victory after everything he had dealt with during the race. His Mercedes suffered severe power loss and brake problems similar to the issues that forced Lewis Hamilton to retire earlier. Despite those difficulties, Rosberg somehow kept the car competitive for most of the race and defended brilliantly against constant attacks from Perez, Ricciardo, Vettel, and Massa. The Mercedes pit wall was amazed by how he managed to adapt his driving style and continue extracting pace from a damaged car. Although losing the win in the final laps was disappointing, Rosberg still extended his championship advantage over Hamilton, which softened the blow considerably. Sebastian Vettel completed the podium in third after a difficult but determined drive. The defending world champion spent much of the race fighting through traffic while dealing with tire and brake concerns of his own. He was fortunate to avoid the massive crash involving Massa and Perez on the final lap, as the accident unfolded directly in front of him. Sergio Perez's race ended in heartbreak after spending so many laps fighting near the front and even looking capable of winning at one stage. Felipe Massa also left frustrated because his late race pace suggested he could have challenged for victory if he had managed to clear the cars ahead sooner. Instead, both drivers saw their races end violently against the barriers in one of the most dramatic moments of the season. The 2014 Canadian Grand Prix quickly became remembered as one of the most thrilling races of the turbo hybrid era. It had everything: mechanical failures, strategy battles, wheel-to-wheel racing, dramatic overtakes, and an emotional first-time winner. Most importantly, it marked the arrival of Daniel Ricciardo as a genuine Formula One star. Throughout the season, many people expected Sebastian Vettel to comfortably outperform his new teammate, but Ricciardo continued proving his critics wrong. His victory in Canada showed that he was not only capable of competing with Vettel, but also ready to fight against the very best drivers in Formula One. Ricciardo's breakthrough victory completely changed the conversation around his future in Formula One. Before the season began, many believed he had been promoted to Red Bull mainly to support Sebastian Vettel, who had already won 4 world championships. Replacing Mark Webber at a top team came with enormous pressure, and most fans expected Ricciardo to struggle against such an experienced teammate. Instead, race after race, the Australian continued surprising everyone with his speed, confidence, and calm approach under pressure. His victory in Canada was the clearest sign yet that Red Bull had made the right decision by placing their trust in him. The result was also a major moment for Red Bull Racing during a difficult season. Mercedes had dominated the early part of 2014 with superior pace and reliability, leaving rival teams fighting mainly for podium positions rather than victories. In Canada, however, the combination of Mercedes' reliability problems and Red Bull's race pace created an unexpected opportunity. Ricciardo and Vettel both maximized everything available to them, allowing the team to secure a memorable double podium finish. Team principal Christian Horner and the entire Red Bull garage celebrated wildly because they understood how important and unexpected this victory truly was. For Formula One fans, the race itself instantly became unforgettable. Every stage of the Grand Prix delivered drama. Lewis Hamilton retired with technical issues after fighting for the lead, Rosberg somehow kept going despite major mechanical problems, Perez nearly gave Mexico a historic win, Massa stormed through the field on fresher tires, and the race ended with a frightening high-speed crash that thankfully both drivers walked away from safely. The final laps were packed with overtakes, tension, and unpredictability that kept fans completely absorbed until the checkered flag. The Canadian Grand Prix also highlighted how demanding the new turbo-hybrid era had become in 2014. Teams were still learning how to manage complex energy recovery systems, brake-by-wire technology, fuel limits, and tire wear all at the same time. Mechanical reliability became just as important as outright speed, and Canada exposed how difficult these new cars were to manage under pressure. Several drivers struggled with overheating brakes and power unit failures throughout the afternoon, turning the race into a true test of endurance and control. As celebrations continued on the podium, Ricciardo's smile said everything. The Australian had achieved a lifelong dream by becoming a Formula One Grand Prix winner. The famous showy celebrations had not yet become part of his trademark personality, but his excitement and emotion were impossible to miss. Fans around the world could sense that Formula One had discovered a new star. Canada 2014 was not simply remembered because of the chaos or the dramatic finish, it was remembered because it marked the beginning of Daniel Ricciardo's rise as one of the sport's most exciting and fearless drivers. In the days after the race, the Formula One world could not stop talking about what had happened in Montreal. Daniel Ricciardo's maiden victory was celebrated across the paddock, not only because he became the newest race winner on the grid, but because of the way he achieved it. He had remained calm while more experienced drivers around him struggled with pressure, technical problems, and aggressive battles. Ricciardo's smooth driving style, clever tire management, and fearless overtaking had allowed him to seize an opportunity that many drivers might have missed. Canada proved that he was no longer simply a promising young talent, he had become a genuine contender capable of winning races against the sport's biggest names. The victory also sent a strong message to Mercedes. Until Canada, the Silver Arrows had looked almost unbeatable during the 2014 season. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg had dominated race after race with superior pace, leaving very little hope for rival teams. But the events in Montreal exposed the weaknesses that could still appear under pressure.